Nibbana in the Pali language and Nirvana in Sanskrit language. You can use either, there is no harm. Same meaning. This word was there in the Sanskrit language at that time in India, but they have not confined this word directly towards the Nibbanic bliss that we explain from the Buddhist point of view. But this word was there. The Buddha is the only religious teacher, or the first teacher, who introduced this word to convey the entirely different meaning, concept. So when we analyze the meaning of this word, Ni and Vana, there are two words here. Ni is one word, Vana is another word. Ni, Vana. In the Pali language, grammatically, when we join two words, we had to change the letters for our pronunciation. That is why we pronounce this as Nibbana. We never say Nirvana. Ni means no. Vana means craving. No more craving. So now you know the meaning of Nibbana. Those who want to know where Nibbana is, now easily can find out. Where there is no craving, there is Nibbana. So simple. Many people say it's very hard to understand, very difficult, don't know where it is. Yes. Any moment, whenever you experience that there is no more craving in your mind, you are in Nibbana. So simple. So Nirvana also the same meaning. Nir means no, Vana means craving, no more craving. But still, it is a very big question mark. However, in Malaysia, Nirvana is very common and very cheap. In Merlin Hotel also you can find Nirvana, ballroom. And sometimes ago, a race horse was given this name, Nirvana horse. So we had to write a letter protesting for using this word. Anyway, they have apologized and withdrawn. Is there any meaning here in this country for this word Nirvana? What does it mean? Happiness? I don't think. There must be a reason for them to use this word. They never regard this as a religious word. You have no idea. A samsara is a different thing. Yeah, that is your interpretation. But those who use this word never give that meaning. Heaven, that's right. It is meaningful. The Hindus use the word moksha, similar to Nibbana. Christians and Muslims and some others use heaven or paradise. So the Buddhist concept is Nirvana, in the same group. But after reaching there, we experience different taste. Not the same taste. To understand differences, we can analyze in this way. There are some religionists who try to convince us, saying that it is impossible for us to go to heaven. If we really want to go to heaven, we must follow their religion. And Buddhists and Hindus never say like this, that the other religion cannot go to heaven. Here the difference now. Our belief is Buddhists and Hindus and Christians and Muslims, even those who have no religion also, no religious label, also can go to heaven if necessary qualities or qualifications are there. Religious label is not the important thing, no value at all when you go to Nibbana. Your label has no value at all. Heaven, Nirvana. They never examine your religious label. They value your life by measuring, observing your qualities or virtues that you have cultivated within this lifetime. So religious label is not important. So according to our belief, all those people can experience heavenly bliss. There is no difficulty. Right. We go there. Together with our Christians and Muslims and Hindu friends, we go there. After going there, Christians and Muslims say this is our final goal. So we like to stay here. So they settle down in heaven or paradise. Then Hindus and Buddhists say it is very difficult for us to accept that this is the final goal. They say we want to go further. Then Hindus and Buddhists go further and further. Then reach Brahma world, Brahma Loka. After reaching Brahma world or Brahma Loka, Hindus say, this is our final goal. So they have decided to settle down there. That is why they say union with Brahma after they are dead. Just like to be with Lord, other religions say. Then the Buddhists say, no, we cannot satisfy with this. So we want to go further until they reach Nirvana. This is the difference now. When we use this word, whether you are belong to Theravada or Mahayana or Vajrayana or any yanas, you create your own concept. You create your own nirvana in your mind according to your wish, according to your anxiety, your craving, your ambitions. This is the way how you create, analyze this word, nirvana. When we explain the real meaning of this word, you feel this is very funny. It is not up to the taste of those who seek something for their permanent or everlasting or eternal immortality. But they cannot satisfy. Not only ordinary Buddhists, even those disciples who associated with the Buddha. Ananda, before his attainment of Arahanta, asked these questions from Venerable Sariputta, the chief disciple. He said, you always explain that nirvana gives us supreme bliss, happiness. At the same time, you also preach us, after reaching or gaining nirvana, we never gain any sensual pleasure. If there is no sensual pleasure, how can you say nirvana gives happiness or bliss? Even those disciples who associated with the Buddha for a long time, the way how they measured the nature of nirvana. Then Venerable Sariputta said, Ananda, that is why we say the highest bliss we can find only in nirvana, because there is no worldly pleasures. If there is any kind of worldly pleasure, that cannot be a nirvana, that cannot give lasting happiness for us. Because the pleasure that we experience through our senses or mind is changeable. Next moment or in the end, create worries, frustrations, disappointment, unsatisfactoriness, or get fed up. This is the nature of any kind of worldly pleasures that we experience. Since nirvana is free from this kind of worldly pleasures, we can say the highest, unchangeable happiness, bliss we can experience only in nirvana, but not anywhere else. So, in heaven or moksha or paradise, we cannot experience everlasting happiness. Now you have learned the meaning of this word and why we try to understand and why do we create some sort of aspiration to gain. The word that we always use, that I want to go to nirvana, is wrong. It does not mean that you go to nirvana, you bring nirvana towards you. If you go, you never gain it. Again, another disciple asked this question of the Buddha. Where is nirvana? He said, when the mind is pure, nirvana is there. So that clearly shows nirvana is not a place. Nirvana is not a paradise. Nirvana is beyond these worldly conditions. It's not within this worldly condition, because worldly conditions are changeable. You see, there are two things in this world that never change, no beginning, no end. Only two things, nirvana and akasa. You pronounce this word as ankasa. Pali Sanskrit word is akasa, a space. A space and nirvana. There is no beginning and no end. And never change, because there is no thing there. No elements there. Therefore changes never take place. But all the other existing things in the universe, including heaven and paradise, are subject to this universal law of impermanence. Nirvana is the only one which is free from this impermanency and worldly conditions. By using our worldly knowledge by maintaining craving, attachments and ambitions in our mind, we never appreciate the nature of Nibbanic bliss. Very difficult. A simple parable is given in our book. Then you can catch the idea. A man who is suffering from a very painful wound in his body. Very painful. By applying or taking all sorts of medicines, he could manage to get rid of this wound, no more, completely healed. When there is no more wound, no more pain, he says, now I feel very nice. And what is there for him to say that he feels very nice? What is that nice thing? Is there anything to point out? Indirectly he says, now there is no more pain. This is the nature of Nirvana. So Nirvana is not a place for you to point out or to go there. To experience freedom, happiness, bliss, satisfaction, without grumbling, criticizing, accusing, blaming, fighting, quarreling, worrying. When the mind is completely free from all these disturbances, we can experience Nibbanic bliss. We never gain this experience while struggling, developing our craving and attachment towards anything in this world. Anya hi labhopanisa anya nibbana gamini. This saying you can find in Dhammapada. The way how Buddha has analyzed. Anya hi labhopanisa. The method for you to adapt for the development of your worldly life is one method or one way. Anya nibbana gamini. The way to Nibbana is entirely a different method. That means a worldly life and spiritual life, these two things you cannot bring together. But people are trying to gain Nibbana or heaven or paradise or moksha or salvation or liberation while enjoying worldly life by developing more and more craving and attachment. That is worldly life. When you work for your worldly life, you can understand what sort of problems, difficulties, hindrances, calamities you had to come across, you had to face. In spite of all these hindrances, difficulties, you work day and night for your worldly life. But you never gain satisfaction. After gaining everything what you wanted, still you grumble, still you criticize, still you create disappointment and unsatisfactoriness. This is the nature of worldly life. The parable is given by the Buddha regarding these worldly needs. When there is a heap of fire burning, to stop this, you collect a lot of firewood and dump there to stop this flame. The flame goes higher and higher instead of stopping this. When you try to satisfy, try to quench your thirst of craving by providing materials, worldly things to stop your craving, is exactly like providing more and more firewood to stop the fire. It never happens. Go higher and higher and higher. So by experiencing worldly pleasures, working for worldly life, we never gain satisfaction. Impossible. We never gain happiness. The word we analyze as happiness is wrong. Now we are not experiencing happiness. No happiness in our mind. We have or we gain some sort of emotional satisfaction. For that we say happiness. The same emotional satisfaction next moment create anger, jealousy and problems and sufferings. This is the nature of this happiness that we are seeking for, working for. Happiness we never gain unless or until we eradicate our craving, our hatred, our ignorance. By keeping all these evil forces in our mind, it is impossible for us to experience happiness. Because those three enemies in our mind always disturb us. That is why we cannot gain satisfactoriness in our life. We cannot maintain contentment. We are crazy for so many things. Whatever we gain, we cannot satisfy. This is the nature of worldly life, the nature of worldly satisfaction. Always we are in fear. Uncertainty or insecurity feeling because of this worldly pleasure. Then we develop more and more jealousy. Then get angry. Create enormous sufferings. Main cause is our craze or crazy attitude towards worldly pleasure. The very day when you withdraw this from your mind, then you can experience real freedom or liberation that you can gain. But by keeping all those things, you never gain. So the spiritual path is one method, and the development of worldly life is another path. Those who are crazy for this worldly life, they work so hard, they run very fast until they get fed up. When they get fed up, they will come back and report, well, we have seen the world, actually there is nothing. This is the report. We have seen, we experience all sort of worldly pleasures, but there is nothing. So, in the end, they have to die as unsatisfied or frustrated, disappointed human being. There is nobody in this world who can die thinking how I enjoy when I was young. Drinking, dancing, merrymaking and this and that. Oh, now I like to die peacefully. Such people cannot die peacefully because of the frustration. So when we work for the spiritual development, first thing, we can reduce our jealousy and anger and disturbances because there is nobody to disturb us. We don't create enemies. There is nothing for us to protect as our property. Then another big burden is already gone. So we reduce mental disturbances, internal and external, both. Then we go on reducing our craving, maintain contentment. After that, automatically, jealousy, hatred or anger or ill will or grudge or enmity, all these things naturally fade away. And this is the nature of a spiritual path. The more we cultivate, the more we develop, the more we experience peace, contentment, satisfactions in our life. And never grumble, never create disappointment, no hindrances. We had to come across all these problems and hindrances and difficulties because of our worldly life. Now in your house, you have a lot of money, jewelries, valuable things. At night, you lock everything, how many doors, iron gate and glass doors and padlocks and iron chains and burglar alarms and this, still you are not sure, you are in fear, you cannot sleep. Then where is happiness? This is the way how you develop your worldly life, to experience happiness. There is no happiness there. Fear. You create more and more fear, insecurity feeling. But when you work for the spiritual way of life, you can open all your doors. Nobody wants to enter into a house. They know you haven't got anything. Nobody wants to come and disturb. I have told you, I have visited many countries, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Communists and Buddhists, and there was nobody to disturb me. Although they belong to some other religions, everybody respect, welcome as a religious man, because they know religious man is a harmless man, whatever religions they have. Religious man is a trustworthy person. They consider in this way, and nobody wants to disturb. As cultured people, they can understand it is very bad, unfair to disturb such people. This is the advantage of this spiritual way of life. Others don't know to disturb. So this freedom we never gain by working for worldly progress. That is what the Buddha says. Anyahi labhupanisa. The method for you to practice in order to gain worldly pleasures is one thing. Anya nibbanagamini, to gain nibbanic bliss, is another path. Then the biggest problem is this. Every religion teaches that this human life is unfinished, not completed. So we are pilgrims. We are marching towards our final goal. As I mentioned earlier, Christians and Muslims and Hindus also do a lot of good deeds, keep away from bad things. Therefore we can regard them as religious people. We cannot say they are bad. They are also good people. Then the definitions of the final goal, ultimate aim of our life. There must be a purpose or aim in our life. But we do not know. Due to our ignorance, we maintain some sort of belief that the purpose of our life is to enjoy as long as we can. Otherwise no meaning. But after enjoying and enjoying, instead of gaining purpose, they come and complain. So it clearly shows enjoyment does not provide the purpose of our life. So after our death, every religion says there will be another place. So this is not the first and the last. Those who do not believe in rebirth again and again also try to convince us that there will be another place, either heaven or hell. Then Buddhists and Hindus say not only heaven and hell, there are so many other places. So their advice is to reach this final goal, we must have some sort of belief, faith in God. So faith is the important aspect here. When we divide all the existing religions, Semitic religions and other religions, the difference. Semitic religions concentrate more on faith and belief. That is why they use this word faith for religion. Your faith and my faith. That means your religion and my religion. So word faith is very important word for them. Without faith, without belief, it is impossible for people to find out their salvation according to their interpretation. Buddhism does not emphasize too much on faith. Now we can see the difference. From the very beginning up to the end, when you analyze the method introduced by the Buddha, we can understand. Instead of developing our faith and belief, the Buddhist method is to cultivate purity in our mind. So it is not faith but purity. But other religions say, without faith you never gain the purpose of your life. Buddhism says, whatever faith you have, you maintain. Without maintaining purity in your mind, you never gain your final salvation. This is the vast difference, although very narrow margin, the entirely two different methods. The method we practice in order to gain this purity, and the method they introduce to develop their faith and belief. To maintain faith and belief, it is not necessary to purify their mind. So their craving, their attachment, their anger and jealousy, all these things still remains in their mind. But they have very strong faith and belief. Buddhism says, whether you have faith in the Buddha or not, that faith is immaterial. If you can understand him, that is enough. This is the Buddha's advice. Instead of developing our faith or attachment or love towards the Buddha, his advice is try to understand who the Buddha is. Now every time when you come and pay respect, reciting these words, Itipiso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vijjacharana Sampanno, all these words, the qualities and the virtues and the knowledge and wisdom and enlightenment of the Buddha, we appreciate, we try to understand. So it is not the faith. Appreciation, understanding. That is what the Buddha wanted. Whether you worship him or not, whether you maintain some sort of attachment towards him or not, the important aspect is to understand who this person is. Then, naturally, we gain confidence. This confidence is far superior to that word faith, belief. Faith is changeable. When maturity, education, experience take place in time to come, we change our belief. But when we develop confidence through understanding, there is nothing for us to change. The method introduced by the Buddha, just now I told you, to gain, to experience Nibbanic bliss is not belief or faith, but purity. When somebody came and asked this question, here amongst human beings, there are so many problems and troubles and difficulties and the calamities and enmity and jealousy. How to get rid of all these problems? The method introduced by the Buddha is this. Sile patittaya naro sapanyo chittang panyancha bhavaya Atapi nipako vikhu so imang vijataye jata. This one stanza, the sayings of the Buddha. Venerable Buddha Bose has written 700 pages in the Pali language analyzing this sayings of the Buddha, only this one particular verse. Visuddhi Magga, path of purification, 7th century. Now here, the way to Nibbana is there. The Buddha's method. Sile patittaya naro sapanyo. First, by developing discipline, that is sila. Chittan panyancha bhavaya. Develop the mind to gain understanding. Atapi nipako vikhu, one who adopts this method, so imang vijate jatan, he will be able to get rid of all these worldly problems and troubles and calamities and suffering that he is experiencing. He was referring to Nibbana. So whatever method that we adopt, in order to find out our final goal or nirvana, we never gain it unless we adopt these three methods introduced by the Buddha. What are those three things? First, we had to cultivate our discipline, sila. Then, train our mind and try to cleanse the mind. After this mental purification, we gain knowledge and wisdom, understanding. Nirvanic bliss is there again. Then different religious groups introduce and practice different methods. Believe in God and pray and worship, asking that God to help us to go to heaven. This is the common method amongst the followers of many religions. So we are at mercy of that God. Another religious group, by performing religious rites and rituals and ceremonies and animal sacrifices, try to please their God. Through these practices, they try to gain their final salvation. Another religious group, by torturing this physical body without eating, without sleeping, without taking medicines when they are sick, and burning here and there, and cutting, torturing this physical body, they believe that they can wash away all the sins or the bad karmas that they have committed during their lifetime. So after their death, they can experience heavenly bliss or nirvanic bliss. See the three methods now. All these beliefs and practices were there in India at that time. If you really want to gain your final salvation or nirvana, first you have to keep away from these two extremes. Kama sukhallikāna yoga, atta kilamatthāna yoga. Enjoying worldly pleasures or sensual pleasures, spending your life only for this, you never gain liberation or salvation in your life. Atta kilamatthāna yoga, by torturing your physical body, thinking that you can gain your salvation through these practices, also never provide this facility. Avoid both. And then, Majjhima Patipada Tathagatena Abhisambuddha. the middle path the Buddha realized, and he introduced only this method, this path. Again he said, by depending on external agencies, forces, or supernatural powers, you never gain your liberation. If you really want to find out your salvation, you have to work for it. There is nobody who can give this salvation. You cannot take this from another person, whether that person is the Buddha or God or anybody else. No one can give this. You have to work for it. You have to work for it. And then, what is the method? There are 8 steps we have to climb. Without climbing these 8 steps, you can bring some joystick and pi and kneel down asking Buddha or God to take you to heaven or nirvana. It doesn't work. That is what you are doing. You want to go to Sukhavati, Western paradise, to be with the Buddhas by offering or reciting something. Very easy. The Buddha did not introduce this type of religion. Then what are these 8 steps? Then you have to learn today. There are 4 stages of sainthood. Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arahant. Those who work to find out their salvation. What is the first stage? What are the necessary qualities or qualifications for us to gain the first stage of sainthood? We had to drop 3 heavy burdens, responsibilities, hindrances, which always disturb our mind. After that, we can experience or gain the first stage of sainthood. What are those 3? Sakkaya Ditthi, Vicikiccha, Silabbata Paramasa. Sakkaya Ditthi. There are 2 ways for us to interpret this. We have very strong egoism, egoistic ideas. Because of this concept, we always try to maintain that I concept. I and my. I did that. My name is not there. Egoism. That is my property. This I is very small thing, but can create hell of a trouble. All these problems we are facing today because of this I concept. Self. Again, we believe that there is a permanent entity, something, a substance, to remain forever without changing, without dying. Because other religions introduce this as soul. Given by the God, created by the God, again gone back to God. That is everlasting. According to the Buddha, As long as we maintain such belief, we never gain Nibbanic bliss. Because that belief is an hindrance for our mental purity. We had to face enormous problems because of this concept. So we had to drop by realizing. That is the first qualification. Second one, vichikiccha. We have a skeptical doubt. Skeptical doubt means a ready-made, crystallized concept in our mind. Without analyzing, without understanding, we maintain certain belief or concept in our mind. Because of this concept, we are reluctant to appreciate, to study and understand reality in our life. Take for instance, some people say, this is the only life. Who says there will be another one hereafter, after our death? Nothing, all rubbish. He is talking according to certain imagination, concept he maintained, without analyzing, without understanding, without observing. Because there are more than enough reasons for people to think, to understand. So without considering, at once they have created some sort of concept in their mind, there is nothing, finished. There are so many beliefs. As long as we maintain such a skeptical belief, in other words, some sort of stiffness in our mind rejects many things without analyzing. That attitude is wrong. When we talk about the Buddha, we say the Buddha is an enlightened religious teacher who can understand everything. Then they say, who knows? How do you know he can understand everything? He is also a man. This kind of, because he never tried to understand what is this Buddhahood, what is enlightenment, how he gained it. He doesn't know anything. At once, he is also a man. How can he understand everything in this world? So, we had to get rid of this kind of stubbornness, stiffness, skeptical ideas from our mind. Then the mind gets the chance to analyze, to observe, to study, to understand. Second hindrance. Third one is Silabbata Paramasa. Sila Vata Paramasa. The attachments that we developed toward rites and rituals and ceremonies in the name of religion. But other religionists say, the more we perform religious rites and rituals, they can attain their final goal or nirvana. Buddhism says, the more you develop your attachment towards rites and rituals, the more you go far away from nirvana. You cannot reach. And then the problem is here. What are these rites and rituals? Now when you come to the temple, full moon, new moon days and Sundays, you perform certain rites and rituals. Offerings, lights and oil lamps and candles and fruits and flowers and all sort of things and reciting certain... What are these things? Are they not under these rites and rituals? No. Answer is no. Sila and Vrata, they do not analyze the meaning of these two words used by the Buddha. Many people make vows in the name of religion to suffer. When you read that book, Dhammapada, there are certain stories and what sort of practices they had at that time in India. Walking with one leg, by using only one leg, standing one leg. Day and night a stand like this. This is one of the vows made by those people to practice their religion, to get rid of their sins, to attain nirvana. And some others walk just like cats and dogs with 4 legs, 2 hands and 2 legs. Always they walk like this, another vow that they have made. Some others take their food without using hand, only mouth, licking just like cats and dogs. The Buddha was referring to this kind of thing. Again, animal sacrifices under rites and rituals, and burning so many things as offerings, either to the departed ones or the god or devils or ghosts. Burning anything under rites and rituals. Then you can ask, how can we burn joysticks? Well, in certain countries they never use joysticks. In some other countries they use only 1 or 2 or 3, maximum 3. But it is a Chinese custom to burn more and more joysticks and papers, because they had this belief long ago due to various other reasons. Now, understanding people slowly going on reducing, they have realized. These are under rite and rituals. Joysticks we offer as incense. There's no other belief that this smoke goes to heaven and our names will be recorded in heaven just because of the smoke reached there. Such silly ideas we never maintain. So, now you can understand what are the things that we have to regard as rite and ritual. Torturing our physical body in the name of religion and behaving like animals in the name of religion. Keep away from all those practices, and without depending on rite and rituals. Even these practices that we perform, when we develop our knowledge, understanding, purity in our mind, we feel the things that we are doing at this moment just like small children's play. Childish, we feel that. But at this moment, these practices are very important to us because we have not developed our mind, our understanding and purity. These are the 3. Can you remember what are the 3? First thing, a strong egoism. Then belief in eternal soul as self, concept of self. Second one, skeptical doubt. Third one, rites and rituals in the name of religion in order to attain nirvana. By performing these rites and rituals, we do not aspire to gain Nibbanic bliss only through these practices. But others perform their rites and rituals thinking through these practices, they can gain their final goal. Now see the difference again. That is called first stage of sainthood, Sotapanna. Srota means a stream. Apanna means got into that stream. The water in that stream flow only this way, but not in this way, upward. The person who got into this path never go back. One-way traffic from there. After gaining this first stage, rebirth can take place maximum 7 times. Because he has cut down so many energies, mental energies, that which condition this life again and again. Not only that. After attaining this first stage of sainthood, if rebirth take place, that person never become an animal, or ghost, or spirit, or unfortunate human being. That guarantee is there. Only after gaining the first stage of sainthood, that guarantee is there. Never go to hell after that. He may make mistake, one who attained this. Then come to the second, Sakadagami. There are 2 mental hindrances. They are so strong, very deeply rooted. It is difficult to uproot at once. Kamaraga, Patiga. They are so strong. Even after attaining first stage of sainthood, still remain these. Kama raga, attachments, inclination towards worldly pleasures. Still they are greedy to experience worldly pleasures. The other one is patigha. Patigha means ill will. It is not anger, emotional anger. Patigha, ill will, means keeping grudge in our mind and also planning to take revenge. That type of dangerous thought. These 2 things are very strong. We cannot eradicate, but subdue, control. So when we control these 2 also, then we get the chance to attain the second stage of sainthood. What is that? It's called Sakadagami. Sakrit Agami, once return. That means rebirth can take place only once. Because he has eradicated attachment towards worldly pleasures. You know the cause, main cause of rebirth, why rebirth take place? 3 forces, 3 kind of craving condition this life, produce this life again and again. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha, the 3 kind of craving. Here kama tanha, craving for sensual pleasure, is one of the causes for rebirth. Bhava tanha, craving for survival, craving for existence, craving for another rebirth, craving for eternal life. As long as you keep all these craving in your mind, there is no salvation for you. Rebirth takes place because of that. Next one is vibhava tanha. Modern psychologists introduce this as suicide instinct. Always we talk about dying. That is our instinct. Modern psychologists also say. Even the Buddha says that craving for non-existence is a very big craving force in our mind. Why? We create this in our mind due to frustrations, disappointments, unsatisfactoriness, unsatisfied craving. When craving could not satisfy, we think better to die. That's why you always say here. How many times a day you say that? That is instinct. Not only that, another dangerous attitude. Because of our craving, we are willing to destroy many things. Because we cannot tolerate or we cannot allow others to use, we destroy them, whether life or properties. There are many people who burn all the things. I don't want others to use these things. I will burn them. That is craving. Rebirth takes place again and again because of these three forces. Now here in this case, the one who attained the second stage of sainthood cut down one particular craving here. Craving for pleasure, but reduce. Then the third stage, Anagami. To attain the third stage, we had to eradicate those two that we have subdued, control, ill will and sensual pleasures. No more. Mind is free from these two now. Anagami, never return. That means after his or her death, existence again takes place since he has not completed all the qualities. Rebirth can take place one of the Brahma world. There are 5, Suddhavasa, pure abode. There are 5 places for such holy people to remain for a certain period to cultivate the rest, since that person could not complete, and worldly bondages, worldly attachment cut down. That is why rebirth never takes place here in this world, because this is called Kama Loka, sensual world. So such person never appear again in this sensual world. But there are some other world systems for such people, pure abode, where they experience complete satisfaction, calmness in their life, but not permanent. While staying there, they cultivate the rest, develop, then attain nirvana, arahata. That is why we use the word never return to this world, sensual world. Then the last one, arahanta. Altogether 10 fetters, 10 kinds of disturbances, hindrances. Now we have already dropped 5. After dropping, eradicating these 5, we have cut off worldly attachment. There's one word for them, Oram Bhagi, Uddham Bhagi. Those who are bound to this world and those who have gone beyond this. simple example. Those who have landed on the moon used a rocket. For certain distance, they had to use the force, maximum force, to reach there. After reaching that level, they had to reduce that because the atmosphere is entirely different there. Cannot come down anymore to reach the moon. Exactly like this. Those 5 attachments that we have dropped were bound to this world because of these mental impurity. When you cut off these things, that attachments or the gravity is no more. Upwards. Uddhambhagi, upwards. Never come down. Now what are the things that we have to eradicate to attain Arahantahood or the final stage? Ruparaga, Aruparaga, Mana, Uddhacha, Avidya. 5. See how strong they are in our mind. But nowadays, the way how people introduce to gain this nirvana, it's very, very simple. Just recite the name of the Buddha. After your death, you will be nirvana. So simple. Instant coffee, instant tea, instant rice nowadays. So nirvana also instant now. So simple. Then Ruparaga, Aruparaga. The craving still working in that mind. Craving or attachment toward the fine material world. You know, there are certain Brahma realms where radiant figure, Brahma figure appear. Since they don't like this worldly, sensual world, they like the other part of the world. Fine material. It is a craving. So you have to drop that belief also. Then the second one is Aruparaga. Another world system where there are living beings without a physical body, visible physical body, but life exists. They develop their attachment toward this type of life, because that life is free from sicknesses, old age and death, because no physical formation of the body. So according to the Buddha, this belief is also one of the hindrances. I have to drop this. Third one is Mana. See how strong this. Mana means pride, conceit. No wonder why we are proud. How strong this in our mind. So we have so many reasons to maintain this pride in our mind. When you study group by group, you can understand. Survey. Let us take Chinese. They are very proud. When they talk about human history, they can glorify. We had the oldest human civilization on this earth, more than 5,000, 7,000 years old. They are proud. Biggest country in this world, biggest population in this world, proud. When you talk about India, ancient rishis and gurus and munis and buddhas appear in that country. It's a holy land. All the great philosophers, psychologists at that time appear in India. They are proud of this. When you take West, we are the one who discovered all the modern scientific methods and technologies. They are proud. There is something for us to maintain this pride. One day we have to throw away this. Otherwise, no purity. By realizing the danger of this drop, this one also, then uddhacca, this is very difficult to understand. Restlessness in our mind. We do not know why. There is nothing for us to complain. No shortage of anything. But still, there is some sort of restlessness in our mind. How do we experience? How do we gain this restlessness? When you observe very carefully, only answer that we can give is this. We have mental tendencies, mental habits. Use one word for this, sankhara. These mental currents are still active in the mind due to previous experience. And such thoughts are going on disturbing, haunting our mind. That is the main reason why we maintain some sort of unrest. For nothing. We do not know the reason why. So by concentrating, through understanding, must try to eradicate these underground currents which disturbs our mind. Then the last one is avidya. Avidya is the main cause of paticca samuppada, dependent upon origination. When the wheel of existence started, avidya has taken the whole responsibility. After going one round, again we go back the same ignorance, avidya. Wheel of life goes round and round like this. Now in our spiritual journey or the development, this avidya, this ignorance or this illusion, we carry or we maintain up to the last stage. That means complete purity. We did not enjoy or experience until we eradicate this ignorance. Ignorance means darkness in the mind, dark clouds in the mind, which hinders the clear vision, clear understanding. So when this ignorance also removed, then the mind becomes pure. When purity is there, brightness appears in the mind. No more dark clouds there. Clear vision, clear understanding. Now then, reach the final goal, Nibbana. A stop, rebirth. No more birth, no more sicknesses, no more old age, no more death, no more fighting. Then you are in Nibbana. Now you can understand where it is and what it is. But today, it is not easy for you to appreciate. Your mental activities are bound to this worldly life. The more maturity, understanding, realization, concentration, contemplation you develop in the mind, then you can appreciate. Oh yes, it is true. At the moment you cannot say, oh yes, it is true. At the moment you can say, oh, true, what is that? No fun. What is it? Just like small children. So for the time being, although you cannot understand clearly, you work for that. The more you work for that, the more you experience slowly, slowly, slowly. You cannot jump at once into this. So, 1.5 hours, not bad. Then, next Friday, what date? Today I cannot say, there are some questions also. That day I could not complete one. Oh yes. What are the benefits occurring from the day-to-day observance of 5 precepts? Because every day when you perform some religious practices, we observe 5 precepts again and again. If 10 times you hold meeting, 10 times you observe 5 precepts. So this person wants to know, why do you want to observe again and again? Do you break them? So next Friday we talk about these 5 precepts. Why it is necessary?
ආකාශට්ඨා ච බුම්මට්ඨා දේවා නාග මහින්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු ලෝක ශාසනං ittavata ca ammehi sampatam punya sampadam sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya devo asatu kalena sassa sampatti hetu ca pito bhavatu loko ca raja bhavatu dhammiko idam ho jātīnaṁ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo imina punya kammena māmi bāla samāgamo sataṁ samāgamo tu yāva nibbāna pattiyā